Welcome to the Care Chronicles with a Caring Touch, where compassion meets wisdom in every episode, dedicated to our beloved seniors and caregivers. Join us as we explore the heartwarming stories, experts' insights, and practical advice that make every moment with our elderly truly special. Get ready for insightful conversations, practical tips, and heartfelt moments that warm the heart and nourish the soul. Because here at A Caring Touch, we believe in laughter, learning, and love as essential ingredients to aging gracefully. So tune in, relax, let A Caring Touch be your guide to making every moment count. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Care Chronicles. My name's Avishka, and today I'm here with Mr. Robert Linden, a financial advisor at the Fitzpatrick Group. And he is going to talk to us about retirement and things related to what we need to think of when it comes to retirement, how we spend our money when it comes to retirement.
Hi, Mr. Robert. So thank you for coming on the Care Chronicles. And if you can, just start by giving us a little introduction. What do you do and how are you in this elder care space?
Yeah, very good. Vishka, I really appreciate it. This is a great opportunity, and I love telling people how we can help them out. We do some unique things, especially for our community that's getting more mature, and I really have a passion for that and helping those people. So my name is Robert Linden, and I am a financial advisor at the Fitzpatrick Group. We're a registered investment advisory firm here in the Houston area. We have a couple of offices, one down by the Galleria and then one up on the north side of town near the Vintage, if your listeners are familiar with the Houston area. I've been here almost 3 years, and it's been a great opportunity. Our philosophy here at the Fitzpatrick Group is very client-focused. We're always looking out for what's best for the clients, and that really fits with my values and the way I like to interact with the world. So it's really great being here. I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity.
Awesome. So what kind of got you started in working with, retirement and financial advising, and how did you get into this space?
Yeah, good question. It's kind of funny. Some people you might hear is that, oh, it's my passion. I've always wanted to do this and I've done this my whole life. For me, this sort of fell into this and then learned, wow, this really is a passion of mine that I wasn't aware of. Now, financial things, I'm in my 50s and my wife and I have worked very hard to save and make sure we are going to have a comfortable life in our retirement. And so we've done all the things that we were taught to do. And during COVID, I used to sell software, and COVID came around and kind of changed our company a little bit. And there were some layoffs, and I got mixed up in that and ended up looking for a new career, something I controlled a little bit more. And being an independent financial advisor and broker affiliated with this firm gives me a little more control to be able to do that. So that's how I kind of landed here. We're a little bit unique at the Fitzpatrick Group, where we do all of the normal financial advisor type of accounts, IRAs, retirement accounts. We can do 401ks for small businesses. I can help you set up a brokerage account where you can buy stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and try to build wealth. And so we do all of those things, kind of the traditional financial advisor type products. But we also focus very heavy over on with some advanced strategies with life insurance and annuities. And it's a little bit less common in the financial world, but it has some amazing characteristics, especially around the tax code and how the money grows in a properly constructed life insurance policy. And we actually bring those strategies together with your brokerage account and these life insurance strategies. They actually complement each other very well. And we can usually have very impressive performance when we bring these things together. From that, one of the companies that I work with, so I'm a broker on the life insurance side, which means I work with several different companies, but one of the primary companies we work with also has one of the leading long-term care products. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's what really got me interested and being a little more focused on helping those that are approaching and really strategizing for retirement, but those in or very close to retirement too. This long-term care possibility in our lives. In fact, the latest statistic I saw, 70% of us from 65 on will end up in a long-term care situation. And it can be very expensive. And so these long-term care solutions, we really view them as income protection for our clients in retirement. We work very hard to build our retirement, and this strategy can help with that. We'll go a little deeper into that in a minute.
Okay. So to start out, you're talking a little bit about these long-term products that people aren't aware of. What are some other things that, we work very hard for our retirement so we can enjoy it? So what are some things that, can quietly chip away at those things that those savings if we're not careful or mindful?
Yeah, that's a great question. And certainly a long-term care situation, if it's somebody who needs long-term health care, that can be a huge impact because it's very expensive. $10,000 a month is not outrageous. It's an outrageous number, but it's not an outrageous cost for somebody needing long-term care like that. So $120,000 a year, just kind of as a middle of the road type of care, can really devastate our retirement plan. But to your question, what are some of the smaller things that can really happen? First, we're spending that money. Once we get into the whole point of retirement is we don't have to work anymore. So hopefully we have some assets that are now working for us, perhaps real estate and other investments, and then our retirement accounts and savings that we have worked so hard to build up while we were out in the employment world. So spending that, so knowing and having a plan for how much can we spend, having saved and planned well enough to have the lifestyle that we want. Do we want to, just get our house paid off and then just kind of live a nice quiet life on our couple of acres? Or do we want to take the kids and grandkids on Alaskan cruises every year? All of those kind of things, the planning or lack of planning can really be very detrimental to that. Now, a little more obvious, but also a little more nefarious kind of thing that just eats away at our accounts is market volatility. So when we save most of our IRAs and 401ks and those types of retirement plans tend to be focused in the stock market, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and those types of things. But a lot of people don't understand that the ups and downs of the market can be very detrimental. We hear about, you go look on websites and they show you retirement savings calculators. It says the market has earned 8, 9, 10% a year on average. Okay, that's true when you average it over time. But what happens if the market drops 20% like it did during COVID the year before I retire? That 8 or 10% average a year isn't really helping me then. So now I've either got to maybe retire a few years later than I planned, or we go be a Walmart greeter or take a part-time job in retirement to kind of make up for that if we didn't have the time to build our accounts back up. So market volatility is a huge detriment to that. Inside of this, something that's a little even quieter are the fees. Financial advisors like me, when you have your accounts and we're helping and advising you to do that, the way we make money, the way we provide for our families and meet our expenses is we charge a little bit of a fee. And most of the time, it's what we call assets under management. And it's just some percentage of your account balance each year is taken out and paid to the advisory firm that you live with. Problem is, a lot of advisors, they have to disclose their fees, but sometimes there are other hidden fees, and the things you might be investing in have expense ratios, which is just another term for their own fees. And that can really pile up. So all of a sudden we're earning 9% a year on average, but if we're paying 2.5% in fees, that really cuts that down, and it's not quite the growth we were expecting. And we don't see that when we finally retire. And then the biggest one that can really eat without the right kind of planning is taxes. I don't know anybody that loves paying taxes. My advice to you, everybody, please pay every dollar of tax that you owe. But I would also say, don't pay more than you owe. And the way you can do that is by having an expert that you talk with and you work with and plan with that can help you understand exactly what you're supposed to pay and maybe what are some strategies where we can minimize the impact of those taxes in the future. A lot of people don't know traditional IRAs and 401ks that we pay into our employer. They're great today because they reduce our taxable income. We get to defer part of our income tax to pay it later. We kind of see that as a little bit of an issue because one problem is I don't know what the taxes are going to be in the future. Most people I ask, if you think they'll be higher or lower, most people think they will probably be higher. I truly do not have a crystal ball. I have no idea what they'll be. But as an advisor and a planner, a wealth planner, if I don't know, if I have no idea what those taxes are going to be, it makes it very difficult to plan properly and to really know how much I get to keep when I retire. So volatility, fees, and taxes are kind of the evil little things just in there munching away and slowly depleting our savings while we're saving and then even in retirement.
What advice would you give to someone in terms of, I know you said you can't really plan or know what the tax rate's going to be in the future. Is there any tips as to how they can maybe manage right now to plan wisely for that time?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And really, the best way to do that is education. So if you find a financial advisor that you at least know well enough and you can trust, and ask those specific questions. Say taxes are, I've heard, can be a very big problem. I've heard that these deferred accounts, or what we call qualified accounts like 401ks and IRAs, I'll pay whatever the taxes are when I retire. How can I mitigate that? One thing we educate our clients on is maybe there are some other vehicles, some other containers or buckets that you can build your wealth and save in that behave a little differently in the tax code. So, the ones that we think are kind of the worst are these tax deferred 401ks and IRAs, the pre-tax dollars where we save today to pay whatever in the future. There are some other ways, even just a normal brokerage account could be one thing, because in that case, we can invest in the same stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. But in a brokerage account, we only pay tax on the growth. And real estate, same kind of thing. I buy a house for $100,000 and improve it and flip it and sell it for $200,000, that my taxable event is just the profits that I make. Or I buy a stock for one amount, sell it for a higher amount. I only pay tax on the profits. So that lowers the future tax burden a little bit. They have some of the same problems. I don't know what capital gains taxes are going to be tomorrow. They can change those at times. But we know that's a little bit better tax picture than the deferred accounts, the 401ks and traditional IRAs. And then what if there's a bucket that you can save in and there are no taxes when you pull the money out? So another retirement account that you can use is called a Roth, ROTH, a Roth IRA. And that lets you put money away post-tax today. So I've already paid all my income tax. I have a little bit of money left over to save, and I can put that into a Roth account. And that money can build and grow, same stocks, bonds, and mutual funds we might use in any of these other accounts. But when I use the money in retirement, no taxes, at least as the way the laws are set today, no taxes at all. So strategically placing our saving strategy and building it within these different buckets is one way we can really lower or mitigate as much as possible that taxable income.
Okay. What about for people that are currently not in the category of spending, but more in the category of saving for retirement? How can they enjoy balancing their savings right now while ensuring that they still have enough for decades to come?
Yeah, that's a really great choice. There's a couple ways to sort of think about that. As we're saving and getting closer and closer to retirement, you can kind of think about it. The closer we get to retirement, I gave that example of what if the stock market drops 20% the year before I'm supposed to retire, or even the day before I'm supposed to retire, I lose 20% of the value of my funds that are in that market-based account. So one strategy is to, as we get closer to retirement, lower our exposure to that market volatility. And then, as I mentioned on the previous question, lower our exposure to future taxes, and then possibly even find some other vehicles where we can lower or eliminate those fees that I talked about. Maybe work with a firm that has very, very low fees compared to some others. So that's one good thing as you're looking at advisors. Shop around and figure out what their fees are. Make sure if they charge a little bit higher fee, maybe it's worth it. They may have the knowledge and the expertise that it's worth paying a little bit higher fee, but you need to determine that and find that comfort. But moving things where we're not exposed to 100% of the market ups and downs is one way that we sort of slow that down and move things that don't get taxed as hard when we're in retirement. And we can start kind of gradually, strategically migrating our accounts to safer and safer investments as we get older.
Okay. I know you mentioned one of the strategic ways is to, maybe shop around, look around and see what firm best fits what you're wanting. What are some questions? What's the best way to stay informed about these hidden fees and hidden costs from these brokerages and from investment management charges what are questions you should ask, or what are some things you need to look out for?
Yeah, a couple things you can do. One, let's assume you've been doing this for a while, maybe on your own. You just have your employer's 401k. Maybe you've got some old 401ks from previous employers. One way to kind of interview an advisor is to bring those statements with you and say, all right, let's sit down and talk about what would you do? Here's my situation today. Explain to me how you would do this. And just be ready to ask a lot of questions. And a big part of being with the right advisor is finding someone that has similar philosophy, a personality that you kind of connect with, that you have a good rapport with. And those things will help a lot. We're good at reading. We don't always get it right, but we're hopefully good at reading other people. And you can kind of tell when maybe nothing against people who sell cars, but sort of this stereotypical used car salesman tactics versus somebody who's maybe a little more educational. Said, look, I really want you to understand how this works before you make a decision. And, some advisors, they make money from the fees that they charge, and that's fine. We make money from the fees in those types of accounts as well. But sometimes they might seem a little hungry to just get your assets over. It's just kind of gauging and watching and making sure you feel that connection. But other questions are, what are your fees? What's your basic fee? They should be able to show you exactly, here is how I make money. If people don't ask me that when I'm talking to potential new clients, that's part of my discussion in our introductory meeting is, look, here's how I make money. I've shown you all these different things and our idea and our philosophy here at the Fitzpatrick Group. If you did this, I would make this much money. If you did this, I would make this much money. And here's where it comes from. So if they're open and honest like that, you can usually feel a little more comfortable.
Okay. And you talked about market volatility as well, and that can be scary. What are some practical ways to protect your retirement assets during those uncertain times?
Yeah, now this is a big buzzword in the financial world, and because it makes sense and it's a good strategy for this. But first is diversify. So you need to have things in the market, but then maybe some things that behave opposite of the market. So we call that hedging a little bit. So there are vehicles, if the stock market in general, all the company stocks are going down for some reason, then there's usually some other investments that historically behave the opposite way or will go up when the stock market goes down, or when certain financial conditions and market conditions exist in the world, certain types of assets may go up when other things are going down and then go down when other things go up. And understanding some of them are cyclical, meaning they happen in a rhythm. Some of them are conditions going on, like high inflation that we've had recently starts making things behave a little differently than they did before the inflation really kicked in. There are commodities. A lot of people are interested in looking more at like physical things like silver and gold. We don't do anything. We can't advise our clients on this now, but cryptocurrencies, crypto is a big investment thing now. The big institutional investors are getting more and more into it. Even Fidelity, I can help clients with some crypto. There are some funds that are called ETFs that are based on the performance of cryptocurrencies. So all of that's becoming mainstream. And so there's a lot, and they all behave a little bit differently. So one way to cure that or curb or mitigate some of the negative effects of that volatility are to diversify. One thing we do here, I mentioned the life insurance. One big strategy we help our clients with, in addition to the market, is this advanced strategies with a whole life insurance policy. And it fits actually perfectly into what I was trying to explain, is the type of life insurance we use grows, but not connected to the stock market. In fact, the way it grows, it can change. It can grow a little faster sometimes and a little bit slower sometimes, but it can never go negative. It can never have a negative turn like the stock market can. So that makes it this nice, steady growth component that we can then utilize with, if the market goes down, what if I could take a little bit of this money that just nice, steady growth up, put it in the market. When the market recovers, I can pay it back. We can kind of bring things back and forth and use the market volatility to our advantage instead of just being subject to it and at its mercy.
Wow, that's very eye-opening. A different perspective for someone who, is looking into something like that. How can a retiree create a financial plan that's flexible enough to adapt to their, these ups and downs in terms of like their life? So,
Yeah. So again, and a lot of the answers to the other questions start you'll start hearing a theme here. But a big part of that is having a few different buckets of where all of your investments and your retirement assets may live. Because and kind of back to what we said a minute ago, as market conditions change, maybe this particular asset isn't going to be doing as good. Real estate goes through highs, and right now we're not in the best real estate that we saw a few years ago, just because interest rates have gone up. So that impacts things. So maybe one of my retirement assets was mom and dad's house that I've had, and I was going to sell it when I needed it. Well, right now, if I needed it, it might be difficult to sell or get the price I want. So in that case, maybe if I had another asset that was liquid that I could sell, it might be some other stocks or a different type of property. Maybe just land is a little easier to sell. We don't do real estate here, but all of these assets, we work with our clients to bring these all together. But kind of just having a collection and a diverse options for when you need to use those funds in retirement is how it can last much longer and be able to spend at a higher level than you might have otherwise.
Thank you, Robert, for coming on the show. And if you guys want to check more out, he is with the Fitzpatrick Group in the Houston area. So make sure you go check out their website as well, and we'll have a link in the notes below. And like Robert said, the time to start planning is right now. So make sure you check out maybe the financial advisors in your area, or start looking into those aspects to better prepare for retirement and those stages in life. If you liked it, please give us a like and review us on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple, whatever platform you're listening on. Thank you again so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey with a caring touch. Be sure to check out our website and connect with us on social media for more stories, resources, and ways to get involved. We're excited for you to join us again in our next episode, where we'll continue to explore the beauty of aging with grace and compassion and dive deeper into topics that matter to our elderly community. Until then, stay connected, stay caring, and we'll talk to you again soon on the Care Chronicles with a Caring Touch.